did a video a while ago going over the pros and cons of the hugely demanded Noshahr Canals remake for BF4, and when Dragon Valley first was available on the CTE client, it didn't take long before players saw a potential in the US spawn to actually be somewhat of a Noshahr Canals-like TDM layout. Well, in the recent CTE patch, that's exactly what has happened, as you can see from the gameplay. Not only is this area dedicated to TDM, they also readjusted the entire layout to almost be one-to-one with Noshahr Canals in BF3. Not everything is the same though. Certain crates and boxes around the boundary of the map are stacked up and orientated in different ways. Also, some laneways have been readjusted. You might be wondering to yourself though, when will this be available for the retail client? Well, more than likely Dragon Valley will be part of the winter patch, but that's not for a while, so if you really want to jump in and have a go for yourself, then you need to download the CTE client if you have a PC. I'm not entirely sure if it's on the Xbox One CTE just yet, but I imagine it eventually will be. So let's talk about some basics, then I'm going to take a look at some comparisons to the BF3 version, including how some of the laneways have changed. Firstly, I want to make one thing very clear. This is the first iteration of the Noshahr remake. Yes, it kinda looks dull with the colours and missing artwork. Of course, it's not going to be perfect at this current stage. Dxtory have said they plan on making improvements to the artwork on the map, so I imagine it's going to look better over time. Also, the map seems like it's missing a lot of optimizations, as you can see from my frame rate on the top right. Normally I'm running at a consistent 120 to 140 FPS. I noticed big frame drops to around 65 to 75 FPS, and overall the frame rate deviates quite a lot. As for the layout, one thing I was happy to see, the middle shipping container formation is mostly the same as what it was in BF3. In fact, taking this still image here, if you add the typical BF3 blue filter and some lens flare to act as the sun rays, it becomes kind of hard to tell them apart as long as you don't look at the UI. And speaking of how it looked in BF3, let's take a look at what is mostly the same and what obvious differences we have in the BF4 version. For starters, I noticed the map feels a lot wider, which you can see from the map overview here. By the way, I couldn't find a better quality layout for BF3, so I do apologise for that. Dxtory have pretty much nailed down the shape of the map, though if you look close enough you can see the distance between the shipping containers to the warehouse down the bottom have more space between them. Same with the space on the left side of the map between the upper level stairs and the containers. The upper level spawn area is completely different. In fact, I think the way it is in BF4 is much improved, seeing as we have the trucks here providing lots of cover, and I'm sure we all can remember in BF3 being spawn traps here until the spawn system rotates the spawn location. As for the shipping containers, like I said before, it's almost an exact match as we tour through some of the laneways here. You'll see each placement of the containers is spot on. You have the parts where you can climb up to the high containers to try and get the height advantage, and of course the little hideout sections are here as well. So what about the back area of the map? You're going to notice a lot of this area is different. Also, I want to point out to all the snipers hoping to parachute spawn onto the top of the crane. You will not be able to do that as the parachute spawns have been disabled, which also means no more support players C4 bombing runs as he parachutes into the map. That did get quite annoying in BF3, having to worry about C4 dropping randomly from the skies. But as far as the map layout is concerned, it's pretty much the exact one-to-one copy of Noshahr Canals. Of course the surroundings are different. Remember, this is on the Dragon Valley map. I know a lot of you guys are probably going to comment on the dull looking nature of the colours. Like I said before, this is the first version of the TDM layout, so give Dxtory some time to improve the artwork. As for some basic feedback, there's a few things I think the BF4 version should have, just like it did in BF3. Firstly, the middle shipping container that's normally open in BF3's Noshahr Canals. As you can see here, I can walk straight through it. This laneway is nicely placed as it allowed you to flank around and even avoid being shot from one of the camper spots like this one for example. In BF4, like you can see here, the laneway is completely blocked. Also with the same camper spot I just showed you, one thing I'm glad to see that's mostly the same, if you travel down the left lane from the front or back in BF3, there's a little opening that allows you to take out enemy players in the camper spot. In the BF4 version, you can only access this point from the back entrance. I think they should open up the front container to make it a straight passageway like it was in BF3. Hopefully Dxtory consider making a few adjustments like this, seeing as the map design is meant to replicate Noshahr Canals. So let's go over the negatives about the map. Without sounding too dramatic, I want to point out a couple of concerns I have. With Dxtory bringing over this classic map from Battlefield 2, which does mean a lot to me, seeing as this was one of my favourite maps back in the day playing BF2, and I'm sure it was for a lot of other Battlefield 2 veteran players. It's almost kind of insulting to think that potentially the main focus of this map will be the goddamn TDM version instead of Conquest. I think the community should embrace the map in its entirety in Conquest Large to really take in its beauty and strong vehicle play. However though, taking into the account of how many people wanted a Noshahr remake and the general reaction from the community so far on CTE, I really wouldn't be surprised if the TDM version, once it comes to retail BF4, will in fact be the main focus of Dragon Valley, which is rather disappointing. Also, we need to think of a few other things. If this map is a huge success, similar to BF3 Noshahr Canals, does it mean we'll start to see tons of 24/7 TDM Dragon Valley servers to the point it breaks some diversity? Does it mean we'll rarely even see the Conquest version of this map? I hope Dragon Valley will be included in the vanilla BF4 rotation, so at least then you'll be able to catch a couple of rounds in one of those servers that runs 24/7 vanilla map rotation. Also, I really do hope that maybe if the server admins end up starting 24/7 Dragon Valley servers, they include TDM, Conquest Large and Rush rotations of the map, instead of just focusing on TDM. To be honest, rotating those 3 game modes 24/7 on Dragon Valley might actually end up being extremely fun, and I'll be perfectly happy with that. However, I just don't want to see TDM being the sole focus, especially on a Battlefield 2 classic map remake. Anyway guys, that's it for today's video. Leave your thoughts down below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.